This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan.
Driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Baby, I'm home.
Well, thank you so much, Parker, and welcome to Time Signatures. I'm your host, Jim Ervin, and as we slide towards the end of Season 4, we have really lined up some incredible guests these past few weeks, and we're not slowing down, no sir, not one bit. Our guest today hails from Germany, and he relocated to the United States at the age of 27 to attend the Musicians Institute, where he was named and awarded the Most Improved Student of the Year in 2015. Not long after, he began playing renowned gospel churches and live music venues around the country, sharing his signature guitar tone and driving rhythm guitar skills with those in attendance. He relocated to Chicago in 2022 in order to pursue his love for the blues and has found a solid home among the Chicago blues faithful. He has 6 albums to his credit, and he's best known for his slide guitar playing, soulful vocals, and dynamic live performances. And for those who are just now discovering and enjoying his music, you're going to have a chance to see him live and local in Kalamazoo on July 19th of this year. Please make welcome Stefan Hillesheim. Stefan, welcome to Time Signatures. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure. We have a lot to talk about here. I always like to get a good icebreaker out of the way if I can. So talk to me about your earliest memories of music.
Oh yeah, that would have been when I was around 4 or 5 years. My dad played guitar, so my dad and my uncle on my mom's side played guitar. They both had acoustic guitars, and I just remember grabbing them and like trying to play stuff, and like my dad and my uncle showing me like the first chords, and that's kind of what took it away. But I definitely listened to what was around the house, like records, and we had some, kind of blues rock, classic rock records. Eric Clapton was in the house, and there were Eric Clapton records, Roy Gallagher, a lot of like folk singer-songwriter stuff like Bob Dylan, John Baez, Johnny Mitchell. So that type of stuff,
Sure. Now, did you have any favorite artists or bands as you were growing up? Maybe a song that you just couldn't get enough of and wanted to hear over and over again?
Many, and it keeps changing. I mean, I keep going back to stuff that fascinated me right from the get-go, but I go through phases where I only listen to like one artist until it really, I don't know, everybody around me can't stand listening to it anymore, I remember during COVID, I hunkered down with Robert Johnson, and that was all that was being played around the house. And at one point, my wife was like, I can't anymore. Like, we gotta change the record. It's, I get very streaky. Like when I have my mind set on something, I listen to it till I have it all figured out. And I think that it's really started kind of with Hendrix. As a teenager, I tried to learn everything that he did, watch the videos, try to see how he held his hand and, like to the last detail, and then I move on. But I do go back to that. I still have an appreciation for the artists that I liked as a kid, just added to it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As I understand it, the blues is well received over in Germany and other European countries. In fact, even more so than here in the United States in some instances. Talk about your exposure and your baptism into the blues when you really got a hold of it as a young man, Stefan. How old were you?
Well, I think the first like blues artists that I had a chance to listen to were probably that was in live concerts, like I don't think we really had blues records. My dad didn't really have blues records, but we're fortunate we have a pretty like renowned live music venue in my hometown. It's a small town, Koblenz, population of 100,000 people, but we have one live music venue, the Café Hahn, that attracted American touring artists. So like Luther Allison, once upon a time, and his son Bernard
Wow.
Allison, they would come once a year. So you really would have to
Wow.
mark it in your calendar when they're on tour. And um, American blues artists would have a tour, let's say, of France, Belgium, Holland, and Germany, and they swing by. So for me, it was like, I would say I was about 14 or 15 when I first saw like American musicians playing blues, which was completely different from how we played it. So
Okay.
there were blues concerts and blues bands, but just the whole feel of it, the rhythm of it, it was a completely different thing. And I realized that pretty early that this music it's an American thing, and you really have to go to America if you want to experience it like where at its root, you know.
Okay. As I was reading the introduction for this episode and doing some follow-up research on you, it struck me that you began your performance journey playing in renowned gospel churches, as I read, as well as other live venues. And it appears that you're still playing in churches. Talk about the importance of these church performances to you, would you please?
Yeah, it just added something completely different to my arsenal, you know. I mean, I played in bands since I was, I don't know, 12 years old, but
Okay.
mostly rock, hard rock, top 40 stuff that was played on the radio, like, but gospel music is basically non-existent in Germany and Central Europe. It's like our church music is organ music, like very traditional. It's like it's nothing upbeat, nothing to clap along.
Very dirgy.
Uh, yeah, yeah, it's very.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice in its own way, but it's like classical music. So I knew about gospel music, but I never really like. It wasn't a plan for me to play perform at a church, and just over somebody who I met in Los Angeles, who I studied at Musicians Institute with. He just asked me, "Hey, you want to come play church with me, or like you want to come check this church out where I play?" And he's a drummer, really good drummer who I played with. His name is Jamar Young, and it was a lot of new influence. It was a new influence for me, but at the same time, there was a lot of familiarity in it. There was a lot of blues
Sure.
in it. There was a lot of especially like the traditional. There was a Baptist church that I first played for in Inglewood, south in Los Angeles, and there were definitely elements that I knew from other artists, from James Brown, from Ray Charles, from Sam Cooke, from artists who I studied before, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right, this apparently that's where it comes from, like that took certain elements out of um the gospel, the church music, and kind of made it popular, outside of that. But also there's a lot of jazz and fusion and very interesting chords, very interesting rhythms. And more than that, I felt like being able to play every Sunday and match this intensity, that the situation asks for as a musician,
Mm-hmm.
was really good practice to dive into that, find that gear to really like play. You really you have to really like pull yourself into it for people to like get into it. And I think I gained so much from that. And besides that, I had to really get good and quicker hearing things on the spot. 'Cause nothing was written down. I just sat down with my songs, starting from not having any repertoire, and I would learn three,
Total,
four,
total
five songs.
improvisation.
Uh, Improvisation, but also preparation.
Sure,
Like
sure.
getting
Yeah.
a situation where 4 or 5 songs, complex songs, I just have to learn by ear every week. And so,
Wow.
just to get your chops up and to, catch up with everyone else, because most musicians I play church with have been playing in church since they're like infants. So I have a lot of catching up to do, and for me, that was a great challenge, to kind of fit in and maybe add something of my own to the mix. But I feel like with cultural music and church music is cultural music, so blues, you always need to come from a point of respect first. First, learn the
Hmm.
language, learn the repertoire, and then try to put your own stamp on it. Don't go in the situation, try to make it your own before you even understand, the how it works.
So these days, when you play at a church, and it looks like you just played at one within the last couple of days, what does your playlist look like these days?
Um, yeah, it changes from week to week. I play for a church here in Chicago on 122nd and Parnell. It's
Hmm.
Glory to Glory Church, and got in there through a bass player who I played with, James Wilson. And yeah, every Wednesday, Thursday, we get a list of songs, and we do have sometimes rehearsals with the choir, and
Wow.
it's uh yeah, just always new material, and there's always new gospel artists and songs that I'm like, oh wow, haven't heard about this guy. It's really it's a deep genre. It's a deep
Yes.
genre. Like there's
Yes.
songs that everybody plays, but there seems to always be new stuff.
Very cool. Now, your 2024 album, Live at Rosa's, is far and away my favorite of your releases. It appears that you have been fully accepted by the Chicago blues faithful. So clearly, you're not out there half-assing it, so to speak. How much fun was it creating that album for you, Stefan?
It was fun. It was for some reason a lot of people, or I do hear the notion that live recordings are tricky, and I understand that there are elements that are hard to control in live environment. But for me, for my approach, I like to record live, and for me, it's easier. I just approach it like a performance and not like a studio recording. And when you record in the studio, I really get kind of I get over it after 5, 6 hours. I can't stick with it, but the energy gets lost. And that's the thing about live performances. And we gave ourselves like no safety net because a lot of people who put something like this out, they do 2 or 3 performances and then they compile whatever they have, tracks, and pick the best ones and maybe go in the studio, do some vocal overdubs or whatever. None of that. We didn't do anything. We didn't do
Wow.
record anything after, and we only did one night. We played one set of music and recorded it. And I'm not gonna lie, there are a couple of mistakes on there. I can hear them, but you just have to live. You just have to live with it. You just have to commit to it and say, "Hey, I take the energy and the good performance over the perfectionism of having every single note 100% in tune where it has to be." And I
Well,
always like recordings like that. I love the Hendrix live recordings and the
yes.
the a lot of those bands in the 60s, Cream, I love the Cream and the Roy Gallagher, the Irish tour live recordings. For me, that was kind of the inspiration to do it live and show people, hey, we can do it live.
As I was sitting there listening to that recording, I'm always amazed when I get to grab a hold of something when I'm listening to a recording like this. And I got that. I got the Rory Gallagher reference. I got the imperfections. And you're right. You don't want to have to make it a spit and polish every step of the way. Otherwise you lose the whole um I guess the whole surprise of doing it live. Would I be correct
Mhm.
in that?
I think so. I mean, it's special for people who had any involvement in it, who were there that night, or who like, witnessed it on a live stream or something like
Hmm.
that. But I think um there's just something about playing off of each other in front of an audience and the energy about it. And it's a different approach. It's just different. You can't layer a lot of things. You can't like add textures or get
Right.
creative with, hey, we're gonna do a maybe you could put a rhythm guitar in there after or something, but I don't want to meddle with that. Anything that didn't happen on stage, I don't want to like uh retroactively go in there and fix something. But that ability that you do have in the studio is kind of taken away from you. You can't really rearrange things. You just have
Right.
to um play the songs a lot, like that you comfortable with them, and then just do your best, you know.
Well, and I have to be honest with you, I've watched several of the live streams from Roses. It's one of my favorite nightclubs in Chicago. I've yet to visit there, but I love the shows. And the crowd always seems to get into it, especially if you've got somebody that's in there doing their work and they're busting their ass on stage. Now, speaking of being accepted in Chicago, there's no stronger side of that acceptance than to be invited to play at Buddy Guy's Legends. And you were just there, weren't you?
Yesterday, yeah.
Yeah. Did have you ever had Buddy come out and join you on stage?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we opened for him in January this year. You know,
Okay.
Mr. Guy has a residency at Buddy's
Yes.
in January where he has different artists opening for him, and then towards the end of it, you know, has us join him on stage, and yeah, it was great. It was a great experience to do that in this January, and all of them are packed out. That's really fascinating. There's people coming as far as from Brazil. I met people from who flew in from Brazil to catch one or two Buddy Guy shows. It's really
Yes.
the club is always fun to play, but when Mr. Guy is involved, the energy is just different. It's just there's a buzz and it's packed and people are excited, you know, and that's special to be part of that.
I was just going to say it has to be. What goes through your mind when you're standing there watching him on stage doing what he does?
Well, it's a lot of history, you know, like when you just think about like who Mr. Guy rubbed shoulders with, you know, when
Yes.
he first came to Chicago, and um, just how few people are still around, you know, who are um original artists in this genre,
Yes,
who
sir.
basically like, you know, came up with with this music, you know,
They
and
brought it up. You bet. Yeah.
right, right. Like from the Great Migration and people who came from the South to Chicago, you know, there's
Yes, sir.
really, you can really count them on not too many hands, like people who are still alive and still doing it and still like talk about it, you know, the culture of the music and everything, you know, and the influences. And it's, you have to cherish it, you know, and I think it's important that we pass that knowledge and wisdom kind of down between musicians, you know, and just take it in as much as you can. There's always a lot to learn, you know.
Yes, sir. Well, let's get into your 2025 touring schedule, which by my review is filling up fast for you, sir. And it features dates into early August by my last look. But one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to have you on today is that particular date, July 19th. Talk about that for a minute.
July 19th, we're going to be in Kalamazoo at the BluesFest. I'm just checking my schedule that I'm not making up anything. That's the 19th, yes. I think we'll take the stage at like 4 p.m., but it's a great
Okay.
lineup. John Primer is there, Vanessa Collier is there.
Yes.
There was a Ivy Ford, I believe. Took a picture of the lineup. But
Yeah,
yeah,
let me
very
let me
excited.
jump in here. Friday's lineup includes the Jim Klein band, Chris Canis, which if you've never seen him on, if you're up there Friday, you got to check him out. Ivy Ford, and then Brandon Santini wraps it up Friday evening. On Saturday, start to finish, by my estimation, is off the chain. Left-handed rollers take the stage, followed by Crossroads
Mhm.
Resurrection, and then you, sir, and then Tully Bray. and another Chicago mainstay, John Primer, as you mentioned, and Vanessa Collier wraps things up. I mean, what a weekend, man. That's got to be
Yeah, awesome.
something you're chomping at the bit to get involved in, eh?
Hmm. Yeah. First time for us playing in Kalamazoo, and I think yeah, we played in Michigan before, but we haven't played like a blues fest in Michigan since I came to Chicago. Funny thing, I was in Kalamazoo earlier today.
That's amazing. And what were you
Shout
doing in
out,
Kalamazoo, sir? Good Mr. Guitar
right.
Player.
Shout out to the Heritage and Harmony, like they make Harmony guitars there now as well. Manufacturer Mike was showing me around. They were very hospitable and showing me everything, showing me the old Gibson facilities too, you know, and it was great. It was really nice. It was a working day. That's the cool thing too. Could kind of watch how people were doing their thing and everything, you know, like a fly on the wall, and saw some nice guitars, and definitely will stay in conversation with Heritage Guitars. They do some fine work there in Kalamazoo. I play
How?
one.
Yeah. I have to ask you because, I mean, I've grown up in Michigan my whole life. I've never been to the Gibson factory or the Heritage factory, which it is now. What kind of a history just got to hit you in the face when you walk through the door, right?
Well, it's
Knowing the
it's
background of
crazy.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and I have one guitar from Germany that my friend Jörg Tandler made for me, and he has like a one-stop shop. So a lot of these machines that they use, he has a very small version and he does it all by himself. So I'm familiar with the process because I watched
Okay.
him build my guitar, but I haven't seen it on the scale uh, that it happens. For at Heritage Guitars, but it's still so much manual and there's so much like manual quality control. So it really isn't like a factory. It is something between the I'm doing it all by myself and automated process. And I thought that was really fascinating how many eyes and how many skilled hands still are on an instrument. It's not like it's all computers.
Right.
Matter of
Right.
fact, I only saw one or two computers in the whole building. So a lot of it is tools and tools. I don't know what they're called, but there were some pressing tools that had like a date from the 1800s, like on there. So very old tools, you know. Some of them he was explaining were still from Gibson, and like very it's a lot of history in there. You know, Eric Clapton's, you know, famous Les Paul, these guitars were all made there, like in the Gibson part of the building. So, you know,
Hmm.
like all these famous, very, very expensive priced guitars, they all came from there. Uh, because at that time, that age, the 50s, 60s, they weren't made anywhere else in the world.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So,
I just have to, you just to soak it all in when you walk in the doors of that place, knowing the history of it and knowing that some of the people who work there today were some of the last members of the Gibson team that decided to stay there and keep the factory moving. And I understand it's not a factory per se, but to keep that tradition alive, isn't that's cool.
yeah, it is. It is. And it's really cool. Our first stop when we came in was the room where the pickups are like wound, you know, and there was a newer machine and then like a kind of older looking machine, how the wire gets wound on the pickups. And
Hmm.
it's just crazy to think that all the Heritage guitars, they all come out of the same room, more all the pickups, you know. It's just crazy because you can buy them everywhere in the world, that the origin of it is just, you know, in Kalamazoo. Yeah, you're in there and you're like, okay, that's where it came from Gibson and now Heritage. It's
Yes, sir.
special.
Well, Stefan, time for the most important part of this interview. Where can people go to find out more information on you, purchase some CDs or some merch? I happen to be wearing a shirt today. You
I
never
was
even
about
said
to say,
anything,
where did you
man.
get that?
For those watching, it was a very quick piece of, I'm going to buy this from you, get it in the mail to me. He got it to me. It delivered on Saturday. And we're recording this on Monday. So this is going to be airing like a Wednesday, I believe, of this week to promote the show. But I want to thank you very much for getting this out to me. But getting back to that, I wanted to ask you real quick, do you offer vinyl too, or is it just CD?
Not yet. I really like vinyl, but it's costly and I have to really think about it. But it'll be in the future. Yes. Okay.
So if people want to buy your albums on CD, they want to buy a classy shirt like this so they can wear it to Kalamazoo or book you for a gig and fill that calendar up for 2025. Where do people go to do that?
The easiest way where you can get a hold of me for any type of inquiries is just my website. It's shblues.com. Very simple. Okay. shblues.com. And there's a contact form. You can find links to all digital platforms for my music. I have a new single coming out June 1st. That'll be called, or it is called, Anxiety. Okay. It's a reggae style groove with some witty political lyrics or socio-political lyrics.
And that's the flavor of the day, isn't it?
Hey, gotta stay current, get current, with everybody.
Well, promise me one thing. When you come out with your album, the door is open here. I always tell people when they come on the show, anytime you have an album or a tour or something to talk about, you're welcome to come back here and talk about it with us. How's that sound?
For sure.
Sounds good. Well, Stefan Hillesheim, it has been a pleasure, sir. I want to thank you very much for joining us today on Time Signatures. Continued success to you, safe travels, and we will see you in July. How's that?
Yes. Thank you.
All right. As this episode comes to a close, I want to tell you about the Killer Blues Headstone Project. My good friend Steven Salter started Killer Blues in 2008 with the goal of making sure that no blues musician lay in an unmarked grave. To date, Killer Blues Headstone Project has placed over 170 headstones in 16 states, but there's a lot more work to do. In fact, Steven already has a list of around 25 more headstones in need of funding and placement, and he needs your help to get the funds to do it. Whether it's $5, $50, $500 or more, every dollar raised goes to this worthwhile project. Please consider making a tax-deductible donation today at killerblues.net and look for the donation link at the bottom of the page. And as always, thank you so much for your consideration. And that wraps up this edition of Time Signatures. Once again, my thanks to our guest, Stefan Hillesheim, but also to you, for without you, none of this would be possible. Jim Ervin reminding you, keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues, one story at a time, is my mission. Until next time, so long, everybody.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.